The age-old debate. Do music leaks actually still hurt the band or artist? Let's dive into that. Hey everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for another installment of my Dear John Q&A series. If you're not familiar, if you're new to the channel, Dear John is where I take a detailed question, normally from you guys, and I give a detailed answer. I answer it to the best of my ability in video form, try to expand on a pretty detailed question. If you guys would like to get in on this, you can use the hashtag DearJohnARTV, or just start your comment with Dear John in the comment section down below. You can tweet it to me as well. This week, unfortunately, I lost the screenshot for this. I don't know how I did that. I deleted it somehow, and I cannot seem to find it. I don't know if the original commenter commented and then decided, let's retract that statement, pulling a Donald Trump on us. Regardless of what happened, I got the gist of what the tweet was, so we're going to dive into this question because I had been wanting to talk about this for a while because I know it's kind of a hot button issue still to this day. Some people feel one way. I personally feel another way that I know other people probably do as well, including some of the bands and artists themselves. So keep in mind, this is an opinion piece, but here's the question on the table. Do music leaks, like albums leaking online ahead of schedule, actually hurt the band or the artist? Is it detrimental to them in this day and age where streaming and just buying albums in general isn't so much of an important issue, I feel like, for people? And that's the question that we're going to dive into here. My answer, to sum it up shortly, is no, but put an asterisk by that. I'm going to try and put this out there pretty plain and simple because I feel like the people who do appreciate, support, and love a band or artist are going to continue to buy the albums. In fact, fans will often double down on their efforts to purchase something if they do see it leak ahead of schedule. And sometimes people are just a bit mixed on it in general. Some of the bands or artists don't even care that much because it is so expected. Really, realistically, unless you're doing a surprise album, you should probably expect your album to find its way online about a week early. In fact, for the longest time, that's why so many bands were doing their week early streams and premieres of their record. And that's kind of been phased out as streaming has become more of a thing. People don't rely on the album as much, and obviously people aren't expecting to make a ton of money off of the album. Where you make your money lies elsewhere. So in this day and age, I have to say that no, I really don't think leaks are the thing that are hurting the bands. I think often it's the band themselves whenever they do other stupid things or other things that are maybe even out of their control. That's what affects them. I think where bands are making their money, as per usual, is touring, merch, and people who do actually want physical copies more often than not, as digital downloads are going by the wayside. People who want those things, like myself, are still going to continue to buy them because they want them for their collection. I mean, look what's sitting right behind me. Do I download album leaks? Absolutely. I'm a music critic. Sometimes I do, ahead of time, or if the album is already out, I'm obviously going to listen to it on Spotify or Apple Music. I don't encourage piracy, but I do encourage sampling to see if you actually want an album or if you want to buy an album. I don't believe in blindly buying something in 2017 because that just seems foolish to just go out and buy a CD that you might not even like. You have all the abilities in the world to sample it ahead of time. To me, that's very similar to just clicking around on something on Spotify or another streaming service to see if you like it, sampling songs, or even sampling the 30-second preview on iTunes. If you consider that theft, then I don't know, you probably have a different skewed view than I do. But how I see things, and I think what a lot of bands are embracing this day and age, is the fact that they're probably going to sell just about as many records because let's face it, they're not really selling records. Nobody is going platinum really just off of sales alone, at least not many, not like it used to be. Just rewind 10 years and you're seeing a totally different thing in terms of pure album sales, not factoring in streaming. Bands know that they have to push their streaming, they have to push the physical products, like if they've got a vinyl bundle, a t-shirt and CD bundle, whatever it may be, the hardcore fans are going to eat it up because they want it, and obviously I'm going to if I subscribe support the band or if I really like the band as well, I'm going to purchase the record, whether it be on CD or vinyl. I've got a collection of both. I'm probably going to do an episode on my second channel, Beyond ARTV, pretty soon about 7 albums that leaked way ahead of time. And a couple of those I'll talk about briefly, like Madonna's latest album, Rebel Heart, or Bjork's latest album. A couple of those leaked online way ahead of schedule, like 3 months for Madonna, 2 months for Bjork. It's something that was absolutely just mind-blowing. Like, how did this happen? How did this get out in the world? Who did this? Who leaked it? And obviously some of those people that did leak it way ahead of time, they went to jail. But the people who downloaded it and the people who listened to Madonna, they still ended up buying it. In fact, Bjork's album was particularly successful because, guess what? It was actually a good album and people still continued to buy it and support it. And guess what? Madonna's album, it didn't sell that well because it wasn't a very good record, and Madonna is washed up at this point. It didn't have anything to do with her album leaking way ahead of time. A lot of you are probably familiar with Tame Impala. Kevin Parker, the primary member and the only member in the studio making the music, said this about his album Currents leaking ahead of schedule. He said in an AMA session, "I feel like music will be free sooner or later, and I think I'm all for it. There's all this talk of music needing a monetary value, this ownership of music, even if that needs a physical form. Some of my most important musical experiences were burnt from a CD with songs my friend downloaded for me at a terrible digital quality. I didn't care. It changed my life all the same." I bring this quote to mind because it really struck a chord with me the first time I ever saw that. That's how I got my music back in the day. People passing around mixtapes. I made mixtapes for friends. And guess what? These people ended up supporting the artists that they did like. In fact, it gets the word out. They go see them in concert. Honestly, I'm going to say that leaks sometimes help the band because it sees somebody sampling something that maybe they never would have heard before. And like I've said several times already, I'm going to beat you over the head with this point, I do feel like the people that really like this, or even the people that are won over, are going to end up donating to, buying something from, or else going to see the band or artist in question. And that's where I stand on this issue. To play devil's advocate for just a second, I will say that it's got to be a little bit of a letdown to see as a band that your album has leaked ahead of time. And you're like, we had this date in mind and it just got out there in the world. But it's one of those things, like, if that's what gets you down, it's just like, maybe you put out the album and it gets a lukewarm reception. There's always things in the music industry to bring you down. It's just that you have to keep pushing no matter what. And I know a lot of bands these days just aren't even thinking about that. That's probably the last thing that they have in mind. All they're thinking about is the touring cycle, the physical merchandise that they're going to put out along with it that people are going to be asking for and wanting, and how to get these songs in your ears. They don't care how you're listening to it because they know enough people are going to listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, and various other streaming services. I honestly will say this, I kind of think it doesn't really do much one way or the other. I think it kind of equals itself out. If an album doesn't have a leak ahead of time, which is very rare these days, they usually at least leak a couple of days ahead of time, I feel like people are still going to go out searching for illegal downloads. The people that are going to illegally download something and have no interest in even streaming it are going to continue doing that. So that's just how I feel. I don't really feel like it helps or hinders a band one way or the other. But I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Sound off in the comment section down below and let me know other topics or questions that you have for Dear John. Leave me a detailed question down below or else hit me up on Twitter, #DearJohnARTV. I don't know if this is going to be a controversial video or not, but it's just my opinion and take on it. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. You can find me on social media, linked in the description down below. If you'd like to see the last episode of Dear John, click right here, or another recent video that I think you'll enjoy, click right here. I'll see you guys very soon right here on ARTV.